So today we'll be interviewing Don Pageler about his service aboard the USS Liberty and his life before and after the events of that day.
What were you doing before committing to service? So was there any occupation or job you
Oh, okay. Yeah, usually I try to go into. I grew up in a small town in Kansas, 2,500 people. I was an excellent athlete. It goes to show you how we often don't describe ourselves by what we really know, but who we are emotionally. I used to say I was a lousy student, and in fact I was a mediocre student. I was a C student. And I got out of it. The Vietnam War was on. We had the draft back in those days, which you guys don't have to deal with. And so I got out of school. I was, like I said, an excellent athlete. My football coach said he could get me a full scholarship in football and track to a small southeastern college in Kansas. And I didn't take that because I knew I wasn't prepared to work emotionally and I wouldn't be making my grades. And then I had to put up with the coaches giving me a guilt trip because I wasn't making my grades and stuff. And so I said, I don't want to do that. So my aunt and my mother cooked up a scheme to send me to a small college in Missouri called Westminster College, which its claim to fame is that Winston Churchill during World War II gave his speech where he dubbed the name Iron Curtain at Westminster College when he gave his talk there on a lecture circuit. And so I was there for a year and a half and lived up to my expectations. I flunked out. And so I knew the draft was going to be brief. I joined the Navy basically for two reasons. I didn't want to be a ground pounder in Vietnam. And also, I had an uncle who was a communications officer in the Merchant Marines in World War II in the Pacific, on Liberty ships, not on Victory ships. And so I decided I wanted to join the Navy. So I went to Manhattan, Kansas, which is where Kansas State University is, and talked to the Navy recruiter, and he said, he says, well, I got just the ticket for you. He said, every 2 years, the state of Kansas sends a whole company of recruits to Navy boot camp in San Diego. And I'll put you on a 120-day delay program, and in June, you'll go to boot camp with 80 other guys from the state of Kansas. In which, here I am, joining the Navy. I don't want to be a ground pounder in Vietnam. And in Navy boot camp, you go through a large battery test. And you go for an interview and they let you put down 3 choices of what you think you want to do, and then they evaluate you. So I went for the evaluation, and I sat down, and this first class looked at my scores and looked at me, and he said just a minute and went away. And I had put down, I think, electronics technician for my first choice, radioman for my second choice, and I don't remember what my third choice was. He came back and he said, follow me, and we walked down this room, down this hallway, and he opened up this door to this room and said, go in here and talk to this man. And inside the room was a table with 2 chairs and nothing else in there. And I went in and I sat down, and this guy was the chief. And he said, how would you like to become, and back in those days they called us communications technicians. They were trying to be deceptive about what we really did. In the 70s they changed it to crypto technician. And he said, how would you like to become a communications technician? I said, gee, I don't know, what is it? And he said, so he got out a 3-ring binder, had 1 sleeve in it, with 1 sheet of paper that had a third of a paragraph on it. And I read that, and I was dumber after I read it than I was before I read it. That's how vague it was. So I looked at him and I says, well, it doesn't sound too bad. I said, maybe I'll put it down for my third choice. And he looked at me and he said, son, the only way you can get in the Naval Security Group is if I recommend you. And the only way I'm going to recommend you is if you put it down for your first choice. So I became a crypto technician with 1 arm twisted behind my back. Admiral Moore was twice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is the highest position in this country in the military. Admiral Moore was twice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during the Nixon administration in the 70s. And so he held this commission about the Liberty and what it was all about. If you take a look at this picture that's on the back side of the front sheet, this is when we sailed the ship 1,000 miles across the Mediterranean to put her in dry dock in Malta. This is when we got to Malta. This is, you can see the tip of the torpedo hole. We're still in the water here. The picture below it, you can see the timber on this left-hand side. That's holding the ship up. We put the ship in dry dock. It's a 40-foot hole. Those are two of the rocket holes. The Israelis say they mistook us for the Al Khazir. This is a sheet has our ship, and down below is the Al Khazir. If you look at the stats on it, the Al Khazir was 1/4 the displacement of the Liberty, so it was a much smaller ship. It was a World War I horse carrier and didn't have all the antennas and stuff that our ship had on. And then the next sheet is Captain McGonigal's Medal of Honor citation and my presidential unit citation. Everybody on the ship got the presidential unit citation. That sheet. I do a lot of work with a Jewish retired doctor who happens to be very upset about the Liberty, and he and I found 3 declassified CIA documents on the CIA website. This was one of them. There were a lot of redactions in the beginning. You read the second paragraph, it says that Moshe Dayan was the head of the Israeli Defense Forces. So he would have been like our Secretary of Defense. And the second paragraph says his own general told him, this is an American ship, if you do it, it's pure murder, and he ordered the attack on us anyway. It also says that he wanted to send out a second wave of Navy boats to try and finish us off, and the Admiral refused to do it. So there was a lot of consternation on their side too. I want to plug my wife, who I lost 6 years ago, unexpectedly to heart failure. Another major trauma in my life, but she put this book together. In 1997, I got the Navy Memorial in Washington, D.C. to put on a month-long display about us. This is a picture of her and I at a stone in Rochester, New York, in Ontario Beach State Park, which is was put up by the VFW in Rochester. It says something that no other memorial at that point had ever said about us, and that is that we're the most decorated ship in the United States Navy. Nobody's ever heard of us, but that's for one single action. You wouldn't compare us to a World War II ship that had been through multiple battles. It's for one single event. These were 2 of the Israeli fighters that were involved in the attack. So basically what happened was at 1 o'clock, we were basically a non-combatant ship. All we had was 450 caliber machine guns. We were converted to World War II Victor class cargo ship. The same hull as the SS Lane Victory that's up in San Pedro if you want to go on board a ship that has the same hull. It's still configured as a cargo ship. In the 60s, the Navy had taken 2 of those ships out of the merchant mothball fleet and spent between $40 and $50 million converting them into intelligence ships. Supposedly, we were the most sophisticated listening platform in the world at the time. So, anyway, the day of the attack at 1 o'clock, our Captain McGonigal had, but anyway, he had called a general quarters drill. And we secured from the general quarters drill between 135 and 140. And I was off duty, so I went up to the fantail to relax a little bit, and I was on the way back down into my sleeping quarters at the aft end of the ship, at right at about 2 o'clock when the attack started. I was halfway down the ladder and I heard all the metal hitting topside. And so my general quarters station was on the mess deck, which was right forward of where I slept, and that's where we ended up setting up all the hospital area for the wounded. When the Israeli fighters left us, we had over 820 rocket and cannon holes in the top side of the ship, not to mention over 3,000 machine gun hits. Then they came out with bombers and dropped napalm on us. And while we were trying to fight the fires from the napalm, they brought out 3 Navy torpedo boats and fired 5 torpedoes at us. And we took the 1 40-foot torpedo hole on the starboard side that's in that stuff I gave you. Out of 294 guys, we ended up with 34 dead and 174 wounded, which is 70% of the crew. Being that we had really no defense capabilities with the 450 caliber machine guns, it was kind of like shooting ducks in the fairgrounds. I reported to the Liberty late March. We went to sea May the 2nd. We were attacked June the 8th. So as I tell people when I give my presentations, I was still trying to figure out how to keep from falling overboard. That's how green I was. So anyway, so somebody grabbed me and said, go to the bridge and start bringing down wounded. So during the 25-30 minutes of the air attack, I spent most of my time hauling wounded down ladders. Now, if you've never been on a Navy ship, ladders on Navy ships are extremely steep. I look back on it nowadays and I go, I don't even know how I did that. But anyway.
So I'd like to thank Don for letting us interview him today.
Thank you for having me and listening.
Thank you for your service from all of us. And
Thank you.
it's been a very memorable interview for all of us. So
Thank you. Appreciate that.